Any weather reporter can be nothing other than delighted and very slightly excited to have my guest with me today. It is the one and only former BBC weather forecaster and meteorological legend, Michael Fish. What got you into weather forecasting? How did you start off?
Well, it was a long time before your time, unfortunately. But there was a major weather event with a huge loss of life in 1953.
Right.
The North Sea floods.
Yes, famous, yeah.
And I think I was just about an impressionable age then. And that I think perhaps triggered my interest in the weather. And I therefore went through school and university to get the right qualifications to join the Met Office.
And as the rest of this is history, yours.
The rest is history. The rest is unexpected history, because I actually joined the Met Office with the idea of being a weather forecaster or doing research, and I never anticipated and never wanted to appear on television. That purely came as an incidental. In fact, I was volunteered, being that the Met Office was part of the Ministry of Defence. We do a lot of things sort of military style,
right.
And I was volunteered to be a television weather presenter, whether I liked it or not.
I have to say, it's slightly warmer today, slightly sunnier today.
It's lovely.
What has been happening with our weather for the last month and a half?
Well, it's what's called blocked.
Right.
Normally weather systems go from west to east, get depressions coming in from the Atlantic, bringing wind and rain, then you have a day or two of fine weather, then another depression. Exactly what's going to happen this weekend, right. And from onwards. We'll get back to a normal British weather pattern come the end of this week, beginning next week.
Right.
But until now, we've been blocked, which means the weather systems haven't been moving from west to east. There's been a gigantic area of high pressure to the north of the British Isles and over Scandinavia. The jet stream, which is the controlling force of weather systems, the driving force, has been well down south. It's been in the Mediterranean. The Mediterranean's had horrendous weather. It's been cold, wet and windy there. They've had our weather. They've had our winter. And we've had more of a northern winter.
I was going to actually ask you about the jet stream, because a lot of people are saying that the jet stream is partly responsible for why we've had this extreme cold March and cold beginning of April. Exactly how does it work, and what does the jet stream do that affects
Well,
the weather?
we know what the jet stream is. It's produced by a huge contrast in temperature, and if you've got the cold air to the poles, you've got the more warmer air down in the tropics, and where the two sort of meet, the area between the two is where the jet stream forms. It's due to temperature contrast.
I have to ask you about, I remember this when I was 13 years old, which give you an idea of my age. October 15th, 1987, that night, I think, which has become ingrained in your history, the big hurricane of 1987.
I don't use the word hurricane.
Am I wrong? I'm sorry, what the big storm, the great storm.
Yes, we can't get hurricanes in this country, and it will take far more than global warming to ever get.
So it wasn't technically a hurricane?
No. Hurricanes are tropical features. They stay in the tropics. You need a sea temperature of about 27 degrees to breed a hurricane, and if we ever get a sea temperature of 27 degrees off Britain, I hate to think everybody will have died of exposure by then.
So, how has that affected your career? I mean, you were even the opening ceremony of the Olympics.
It was wonderful.
It was you with you.
4 billion people, it was estimated, was watching that. Although most of them, of course, wouldn't know what the hell it was all about. What on earth is that?
Did you think it enhanced your career? I mean, it's become one of the most famous.
Well, at the time, I was extremely cross and upset, because I knew it was nothing to do with me. I wasn't even on duty. Bill Giles was the forecaster on duty, and I got all the blame and was unable to answer for it. But once I retired, of course, it was a boon, because I was then able to use it to make money and keep the fame going. Absolutely. And the ultimate accolade was last year at the Olympics.
Absolutely, no, brilliant. What exactly happened on that night? Why didn't we see it coming? I know people have often asked you this before, but why didn't we see that coming?
Well, we did see it coming, actually. Unfortunately, we saw it coming 5 days in advance, and the forecast 5 days in advance spoke of extremely stormy weather and all the rest of it. But as time got closer and closer, so the computer started to diverge, and whereas it had the forecast completely right on the Sunday and the farming forecast, by the time it got to the Friday, it had decided that the depression was actually going to go a little bit further south along the English Channel, and that northern France would get completely devastated, and it would miss the British Isles. As it turned out, of course, the initial forecast was right, and the later forecasts were slightly wrong.
Tell me about the Remember How We Used To campaign.
Well, we're trying to sort of show how things have changed over the year, how using power things have changed, and one of the main things that's changed as far as the Met Office is concerned is the computer.
Yes.
The computer that, in 1962 actually was a marvellous year for the Met Office. It was the best year they've ever had, because that was when they got their first computer, when they started producing their first computer forecast. They also got data from satellites, and I joined the office.
Right.
So 3 wonderful things as far as the Met Office is concerned. And that computer did 30,000 calculations a second.
Yeah.
Now the current computer does, I can't remember the figure, but it's something like 100 trillion
It's amazing.
calculations a
Absolutely
second.
amazing.
Yes.
Do you think, as we said, we in Great Britain love talking about the weather? We open every single conversation, I think, with the weather. We absolutely love it, for as long as I can remember. Will we ever tire with our obsession with our weather?
Well, I suppose not, because it's a lovely climate.
You hope
isn't it?
not.
I hope not. Yes, I want to continue working, but we'll have to see. If for some reason or other the weather does become controllable, then it won't be quite such a unknown entity any longer. But and I'm sure the British will continue to do that. But then, as I said a while ago, when you travel the world, you realise we're not alone.
We're not alone.
Many other countries are just obsessed by the weather, and indeed are more affected by the weather, because in many countries the weather can cause fatalities, and often does.
It often does. So I think we should be lucky, think ourselves lucky with the weather that we get. Although
Yes.
uncomfortable at the time.
I mean, most years I go storm chasing in America, in the Midwest, and I mean, what you see there is unimaginable. If we had the sort of storms that you get in the American Midwest in the middle of London, heaven knows what would happen.
Let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Michael Fish, thank you very much for coming. It's been
pleasure.
lovely meeting you and lovely
Pleasure.
talking to you. Thank you.